He should have deleted the photo the moment he saw her in it, but he didn't. And that single choice was the reason his reality began to fracture, because the woman who kept appearing in his photos didn't exist, not yet. And when she finally walked into his studio, breathless and unaware of the storm she carried with her, he realized the truth. His camera wasn't showing him the present, it was warning him about her future. The night the story truly began didn't feel unusual at all. It was simply another gala at the edge of the city, one of those excessive, shimmering gatherings where heirs and millionaire families performed their rituals of wealth beneath chandeliers the size of meteors. The ballroom of the Marlowe estate glowed in gold and champagne dust, the air humming with strings, laughter and secrets. And inside that curated chaos stood Elias Verdun, the photographer who had immortalized the elite for more than a decade. His silver-ringed fingers clutched his camera with a familiarity lovers rarely achieved. Elias didn't just take portraits, he extracted truths. He captured what people hid, what they feared, what they hoped no one would ever see. But tonight, beneath the warm glow of the chandeliers, he was hunting something else entirely. A pattern, a whisper of a presence, a ghost of a woman he had never met, yet had photographed by accident 6 times in 6 different locations over 6 different months. Always blurry, always behind someone else, always looking away, and always her. Elias pretended to blend in with the elite crowd, but his mind hovered far from their champagne smiles. A violinist brushed past him, followed by a couple arguing softly in French. The air smelled like amberwood perfume and roasted figs, opulence everywhere, yet nothing dazzled him anymore, nothing except the impossible woman. He lifted his camera to capture a candid shot of a billionaire heiress, adjusting her diamond cuff. The soft click echoed. He checked the preview out of habit, then froze. There she was, again, in the background, half-turned, moving through the edge of the ballroom like a shadow that didn't belong to the room. His pulse sharpened, not fear, recognition. He began to move through the guests, weaving between couture gowns and velvet suits, his attention locked on the corridor she had slipped into. For a moment he doubted himself. Maybe it was just someone who resembled her. Maybe his exhaustion was inventing patterns where none existed. But then he heard something. A faint echo, almost like a breath caught in cold air, even though the room was warm. Elias pushed through the door leading into a long marble hallway, lit only by antique sconces. Silence pooled there, thick and unmoving. He walked slowly, his steps cushioned by the velvet carpet. Then he saw her. A woman in a black dress standing at the far end of the corridor, her back to him. Her silhouette was elegant but tense, like a sculpture caught between fleeing and staying. Her dark hair fell over one shoulder, gleaming under the dimmed lights. "Excuse me," Elias said softly. She stiffened, almost imperceptibly. When she turned, her face was nothing like the blurred figure from his photos. She was breathtaking. But there was something else, something hollow in her gaze, a sadness that didn't belong to someone attending a millionaire gala, a fear she tried to hide. Elias stepped closer. "I need to ask, were you in Paris last month? Or at the Vesper Club in New York? Or—" She blinked. Confusion washed over her features. "No," she whispered. "I've never been to any of those places." "But I photographed you," he insisted. "Many times." She shook her head, almost trembling. "I don't know you," she said, "and I was never in your photographs." Elias lifted his camera, showing her the latest image. Her face, blurred but unmistakably hers, was inches from the lens. She backed away like he had shown her a weapon. "That's not me," she whispered. "I swear, that's not me." Her voice cracked. Something in the corridor shifted, an inexplicable chill brushing across Elias's skin. He took one step toward her. She took one step back. And then, the lights flickered. Just once. But in that split second of darkness, he saw something behind her reflection in the glass of a framed painting, a figure, tall and dark, leaning too close. When the lights returned, The corridor was empty. She was gone, vanished without a sound. And Elias, for the first time in years, felt something he had forgotten how to feel. Fear. Elias didn't sleep that night. After the woman vanished from the Marlowe hallway, he tore through every corner of the estate, questioning staff, scanning surveillance feeds, reviewing every frame he had shot that night. Nothing. No trace of her. It was as if she had dissolved into the dimmed light the moment the chandelier had flickered. And yet, she remained in every photo he had taken, not just in the one he showed her. In all of them. She appeared in the blurred edge of a mirror, in the curved reflection of a champagne flute, in the chrome surface of a vintage Rolls-Royce parked outside the gala. Her presence wasn't accidental anymore. It was deliberate. By dawn, Elias drove back to his studio, a minimalist loft perched over the city like a secret watchtower. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed skyscrapers, drowning in early morning fog. His equipment lay scattered across steel tables, lenses, tripods, prints, contact sheets, all arranged with the precision of a man who controlled every shadow of his world. Except now, he controlled nothing. He loaded the gala photos into his editing monitor, hands trembling for the first time in years, and there she was, again and again, impossibly calm, impossibly present. But something changed. Each version of her looked slightly different. In one, her lip was split. In another, her hair shorter. In a third, she wore no makeup, her face streaked with something like rain or tears. And in one, Elias recoiled. In that one, she wasn't looking away. She was staring directly at the camera, directly at him, her eyes wide, horrified, pleading, as if begging him to stop. A chill spread through his chest, threading itself around his ribs. "Who are you?" he whispered to the empty studio. He enlarged the image, pixel by pixel. Behind her, just like in the corridor, something dark warped the shadows. A shape, a presence. Not a person, not exactly. More like a distortion in reality. A knock shattered the silence. Elias straightened, heart jarring against his ribs. No one ever visited this early. When he opened the door, sunlight spilled in along with her. The woman from the gala. Live, whole, breathing, terrified. Up close, she seemed younger than he remembered, mid-20s with a softness that contradicted the hardness of her expression. She held her arms tightly around herself, as if the cold lived inside her. "I shouldn't be here," she said, "but I had nowhere else to go." Elias stepped aside instantly, and she entered like someone stepping into a sanctuary she didn't trust. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated, as if choosing the safest version of the truth. "Lena," she finally murmured. He nodded. "I'm Elias." "I know," she whispered. Her eyes flicked around the studio, landing on the photographs pinned to his walls. Slowly, she walked toward one print, an image taken months earlier in Monaco. Her blurred figure stood behind a laughing heiress. "This wasn't me," Lena said. "I've never been to Monaco." Elias studied her face, every flicker, every swallow, every tremor. She wasn't lying. He knew how to read people. She was utterly honest and utterly lost. He took a breath. "Lena, there's something strange happening, and I think you're part of it." She turned toward him, eyes shimmering with something he recognized far too well. Fear drenched in exhaustion. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "I've been seeing things too." Elias's pulse stopped. She swallowed hard before continuing. "I saw myself yesterday," Lena whispered. "Outside my apartment window. Same face, same clothes, same... everything." She looked at me like she was trying to warn me. A dread he couldn't name slid down Elias's spine. "And then she disappeared," Lena finished. Silence thickened the air between them. Elias motioned toward the table where the distorted pictures waited. "There's something you need to see." But before they reached the computer, a soft crackling sound rippled through the studio, like electricity crawling through wires. Lena froze. The lights flickered. Just once, but long enough for Elias to see it. A shadow behind her, not cast by her body, not cast by anything in the room, a shadow that didn't belong to the present moment. Lena gasped and gripped his arm with desperate fingers. "Elias," she whispered, voice cracking. "I think something is following me." He swallowed, trying to steady the fear rising in his chest. "No," he said softly. His eyes locked on the darkness curling at her back. "It's following both of us." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The studio, usually Elias's sanctuary, a place where light obeyed his every command, felt invaded by something he could not control, something that didn't care about physics or reality or logic. Lena's fingers clutched his arm as if he were the last solid thing in the room. "Is it gone?" she whispered. Elias didn't answer. He stepped away, slowly, cautiously, like a man approaching a sleeping predator. He passed through the spot where the shadow had curled behind her, half expecting to feel cold teeth brush his skin. Nothing. But the air held the faint metallic taste of a storm about to break. He exhaled. For now. Lena wrapped her arms around herself again, like a child trying to contain warmth that kept slipping through her fingers. Elias motioned toward the computer. "I need to show you something. It's the only way to understand this." She followed him hesitantly, each step a silent question. He pulled up the image from the gala, the one where her reflection stared directly at the camera with unmistakable fear. Lena stopped breathing. "That's not me," she whispered. "But it looks like me. It feels like me." Elias watched her carefully. "Lena, do you have any memories that don't belong to your life? Any dreams that felt too real?" She looked at him sharply. "How do you know about that?" "Because," Elias said, pulling another photo from a drawer, "I think time isn't working the way we think it is, or at least, not for you." He placed a print on the table, a photograph from 3 months ago, a charity ball in Vienna, a wealthy socialite spinning in a crimson dress, and there, behind her, was Lena again. But this version of her had a cut across her cheek, swollen eyes and bruised arms. She looked as if she had survived something terrible. Lena covered her mouth, tears rising. "That never happened," she said. "I've never been injured like that." Her voice trembled. "But it looks like something that could happen." Elias lowered his tone. "Or something that's supposed to." A soft, terrified sound escaped her throat. He continued, though each word felt like stepping deeper into a labyrinth. "I don't think my camera is capturing the present anymore. Not when you're in the frame." Lena shook her head. "That's impossible." "So is appearing in photos you were never present for," Elias said gently. "So is seeing your own double." The silence that followed was a fragile thing. Then Lena whispered, "Why me? Why is this happening to me?" Elias leaned against the edge of the table, the soft morning light painting shadows across his face. "I don't think it started with you," he admitted. "I think it started with me." She stared at him, startled. He exhaled slowly, like peeling open a wound that had never truly healed. "Years ago, before I photographed heirs and millionaires, I had a muse." A softness entered his voice, threaded with regret. "She was brilliant, bright, magnetic, and I pushed her into a world she wasn't ready for, a world that consumed her." Lena waited, breath held. "She disappeared," Elias said. "And when she did, I stopped taking new muses. I stopped letting anyone too close. Because I knew that whatever took her wasn't done." Lena's voice was barely audible. "You think this thing is connected to what happened to her?" "I think," Elias said, "that I've been followed far longer than I realized. And now, it's chosen you." Lena looked down, trembling. "Why me?" Elias stepped closer, his voice low, steady, grounding. "Because you're the first person who ever appeared in my photos without being in front of my lens." He took a slow breath. "And because I think you're the one person it can reach, but only through me." Lena's eyes lifted to his. Something shifted between them, something fragile, inevitable, dangerous. Not romance, not yet, but gravity. A pull neither of them could step away from. Suddenly, the overhead lights buzzed again. The computer screen flickered. A new image appeared, one Elias hadn't taken. Lena gasped. It was a photo of her, standing in Elias's studio. Not now, not before. She looked older, her eyes hollow, her expression one of desperate warning. Behind her, Elias was on the floor, unconscious or worse. Lena's voice broke. "Oh my God!" Elias felt his heartbeat crash against his ribs, and then they both saw it. In the far corner of the photo, a tall, shadowed figure, half-formed, watching them with a patience that felt ancient. The image trembled on the screen before dissolving into static. Lena pulled away, shaking. "We have to go. We have to get out of here." Elias grabbed her wrist, not forcefully but urgently. "No," he said. "We can't run from something that doesn't live in the present." Lena met his gaze, terrified. "What do we do then?" Elias looked toward his camera, his curse, his weapon, the only thing that could see what the human eye couldn't. "We find out what it wants." Outside, the city was beginning to wake, but inside Elias's loft, time felt suspended, like someone had pressed pause on the world and forgotten to release it. Lena stood with her back to the window, her hands trembling as pale morning light traced the outline of her figure. She looked like someone caught between two lives, one she remembered, and one that kept appearing in photographs she had never lived. Elias paced in front of his equipment table, a man trying to decipher a language only shadows understood. "We need to start from the beginning," he said. "Everything you've seen, everything that felt wrong, every moment you felt watched." Lena swallowed hard. "It started 3 weeks ago." He stopped pacing. "That recent?" She nodded. "I thought it was stress, or lack of sleep, but then things began to disappear from my apartment." Her voice faltered. "And then something started replacing them." Elias's brow furrowed. "Replacing?" She moved toward him, her eyes glossy with the weight of a truth she hadn't wanted to accept. "One night my bathroom mirror had fingerprints on it." She shivered. "Not mine, and they were too high, like someone tall had pressed their hands against the glass, watching me." Elias felt a coldness bloom in his chest. "And then," he asked, "I started hearing someone breathing next to me when I was asleep." Her throat tightened. "But when I turned, nothing was there." Elias lowered his voice. "Lena, this thing, whatever it is, it's not trying to scare you." She stared at him, horrified. "Then what is it trying to do?" He hesitated. "It's trying to get closer." A crack of panic split her voice. "Why me? What did I do? I'm nobody, Elias." "No." He stepped closer. "You're not nobody. You've been in places you don't remember, moments you never lived, but the camera did. The camera sees the version of you that reality hasn't caught up with yet." Lena covered her face with her hands, the weight of destiny, or something crueler, closing around her. Elias reached out, his voice softening. "Lena, I'm going to help you, but to do that, I need to find out what connects you to my camera." She dropped her hands, revealing eyes drowning in fear. "And to your lost muse," she whispered. Elias's expression darkened with a haunted grief. "My first muse," he said quietly, "vanished after I took a photo of her that shouldn't have existed. When I developed it, she was standing with someone, something behind her, a shadow I'd never seen. The next day she disappeared." Lena sat on the edge of his editing desk, knees weak. "You think the same thing is happening to me?" Elias looked at her, a long, painful silence stretching between them. "I think whatever took her, learned from her." The temperature in the room dipped, not physically, emotionally. The air tightened, and then a soft sound broke the tension. A shutter click, but no camera had been touched. Elias spun, scanning the studio. Another click, and another. The sound grew louder, as if an invisible photographer circled them, taking picture after picture. Lena pressed herself against the desk, breath sharp. "Elias, what's happening?" He moved toward his main camera, lifting it with tense hands. It wasn't the source. He checked another, and another, none of them. The clicking grew rapid, frantic, hungry. Elias's chest constricted. "It's here." The studio lights flickered violently. Then every screen in the room blinked awake. Dozens of monitors Elias used for editing, each one turning white, then forming an image. Lena. Dozens of versions of her, in different places, different ages, different wounds, different futures. Some looked terrified, some looked exhausted. One was smiling, but not with hope. With resignation. Lena stared, horrified. "These can't be real. They are not our present," Elias said. "They are possibilities." "Possibilities of what?" she whispered. He turned to her slowly. "Of what you might become." A sharp metallic crack echoed through the room. The windows darkened, like a shadow had passed directly in front of the morning sun. Lena grabbed Elias's hand without thinking. "Please tell me we can stop this." He squeezed back, steady, despite the terror in his veins. "We can't stop what we don't understand." A sudden gust swept across the room, scattering prints across the floor. One landed at Lena's feet. She picked it up with trembling fingers. It was a photograph no one had taken. Lena, standing in the exact spot she stood right now. But behind her a hand, pale, unfamiliar, rested on her shoulder. Elias stepped closer, heart pounding. "That's not my hand," he whispered. Lena turned, breath frozen in her chest. No one stood behind her, not in the present. But the future. The camera knew something they didn't. Elias drew a slow, trembling breath. "We're running out of time." The storm rising inside the studio didn't come from the sky. It came from the walls, from the lights, from the photographs breathing like living things. It came from the feeling that past, present, and future were beginning to fold into one another. Not before Elias and Lena's eyes, but around them. The screens finally went dark, leaving the studio drowned in a deep bluish dimness. The silence that followed was so dense it felt like it had weight. Lena slowly knelt, still holding the newly printed photograph, the one where an unfamiliar hand rested on her shoulder. "Elias," she whispered, "if this is my future, do I have any control over what's coming?" Elias walked toward her, his steps soft on the polished concrete floor. He had always been a man of precision, every word measured, every gesture intentional. But now his fingers trembled ever so slightly. He knelt in front of her. "Listen to me, Lena. The camera may show possibilities, but nothing is fixed. If it were, you wouldn't be here in the flesh. These images aren't decisions, they're warnings." She shut her eyes, drawing in a breath, as if air had suddenly become scarce. "It feels like my life isn't mine anymore." "Then we take it back," Elias replied, his voice steadier than she expected. A low rumble echoed, not from outside but from somewhere deep beneath the studio, as though the building itself were shifting its bones. Lena opened her eyes. "What's happening to your studio?" Elias glanced around. The shadows looked longer, heavier, more aware. The same sensation he had felt years ago returned from the night his first muse disappeared. "Shadows have memory," he murmured. "And this place remembers her. It remembers you." Lena shivered. "Why me? I never did anything." "You existed," Elias said simply, "and whatever is hunting you, it's drawn to that existence, to your potential, to what you might become." She lowered her gaze to the floor, absorbing each word. When she looked up again, something had changed. Fear remained, but beneath it, something new took root. Resolve. "Then tell me what happened to your muse," she said. "Tell me everything. I need to understand what I'm fighting." Elias hesitated, and in that brief silence Lena sensed a past he had never dared to name. "She was my first muse," he began quietly, "the one who taught me what beauty could do, and what it could cost. I photographed many people, but she was the only one who captured me." Lena remained still, waiting. "One night I took a simple portrait of her," he continued. "Nothing extraordinary, but when it developed, she had changed. Not her features and her expression. She looked terrified, as if she were watching something approach from behind the lens. Lena's pulse slammed against her ribs. Like me. Exactly like you. Pain flickered behind his eyes, old, raw, unhealed. The next morning she was gone, not from her apartment, not from the city. Gone, as if she had stepped out of time itself. Lena swallowed hard. You think the shadow took her? I think she tried to run, Elias said, and it took what she could have been instead. Lena tried to stand, but her knees weakened. The idea of losing not just her life, but her path, her essence, being erased in some parallel sliver of time, made her tremble. Elias, what if the versions of me you photographed, what if they're already gone? He reached for her arm, steady, protective, human. The first truly human warmth she'd felt since this began. They're possibilities, he said softly. Not losses, but something is different with you. You appeared in my photos before I ever met you. The shadow didn't just choose you. He inhaled deeply, locking his gaze onto hers. It's been preparing you. A sharp crack sliced the air, like a wire snapping. The lights burst in a flash of white. For a moment everything dissolved, the walls, the floors, the air. When their vision cleared, the photographs on the walls had changed. Every single one showed Lena, older, tired, alone. And always with the same shadow lurking behind her. Lena staggered backward. Elias, these aren't possibilities anymore. He studied the photos, his pupils constricting as if he recognized their hidden language. Their instructions. The temperature dropped, not a little, drastically. Lena rubbed her arms, breath trembling. Instructions for what? Elias turned to her slowly. To claim you. The floor vibrated beneath them, subtle but persistent. Another photograph slid out of the printer. The machine wasn't even on. Lena approached it with a pounding heart. When she saw the image, her breath shattered. It was her, lying on the studio floor, eyes open, lifeless, and behind her stood the figure they had only sensed until now, a shadow in human shape, its edges distorted like torn time. Elias snatched the photo before it fell from her hands. Lena, she stepped back. Don't, she whispered. Don't tell me that's my fate. He slipped the photo into his jacket pocket, his voice low and strained. That depends on what we do next. The studio lights flickered again, not violently this time, but almost rhythmically, as if responding to something unseen stirring in the walls. Lena pressed her back against one of the massive columns, her chest rising and falling with sharp, uneven breaths. Elias, she whispered, if this thing already knows my future, how do we fight it? Elias stood in the dim center of the room, the shadowed portraits forming a silent audience around him. The last photograph, the one depicting her lifeless on the studio floor, felt like a weight inside his jacket, one he would not let her see again. We don't fight the future, he answered quietly. We rewrite it. Lena let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Rewrite time? Elias, we can barely understand what your camera is showing. He stepped toward her, the low hum of electricity trailing behind him. My camera doesn't see time, he said. It sees consequence. Every fear we bury, every choice we avoid, everything we try to escape. It captures what those paths become. She stared at him, the truth settling like cold dust over her skin. So all those versions of me were consequences, Elias finished, not destiny. Lena closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. Voices from the hallway suddenly drifted in, distant but unmistakable. Staff? Security? No. These voices were too faint, too layered, as if they were echoes of people long gone. Do you hear that? She whispered. Elias did, and his expression hardened. The studio is thinning, he murmured. It's happening faster than I expected. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, fragmented, as if a dozen versions of the same moment were trying to speak at once. Lena clamped her hands over her ears, but the voices pressed deeper, slipping past bone. A woman's voice broke through the noise, clear, desperate. Elias, don't let her take my place. Lena's eyes snapped open. That wasn't me. Elias went rigid. No, he said. It was her. His lost muse. Lena felt her pulse stutter. She's still here. Not here. His jaw tightened. But close enough to warn us. A sudden gust swept through the studio, scattering loose prints across the floor. The temperature plummeted again, and then the shadow arrived. It didn't step into the room, it formed in it. A slow, silent shape, gathering density. Its edges vibrating like unstable film. It stood behind Lena, mirroring its posture from the photograph no one wanted to acknowledge. Elias moved instantly. Don't turn around, he said sharply. Lena froze, every muscle in her body taut. I can feel it, she whispered. Elias, I can feel it breathing. Lena, look at me. His voice was the only warm thing left. She forced her gaze up to him. The shadow shifted, noticing. Elias lifted his camera, not the digital one, not the one that saw time, the old one, the forbidden one, the one he had sworn never to use again. Elias, don't... It brought her to me, he said. It took her from me, and now it's trying to claim you. He stepped between Lena and the entity, the shadows curling toward him like smoke seeking a spark. Whatever it wants, he said, it won't take. The camera clicked. The flash detonated across the room, bright enough to turn shadows into skeletons of light. Lena staggered back, shielding her eyes. When the white faded, the shadow was gone. Or rather, it had retreated, sucked back into the walls, into the photographs, into the folds of whatever broken time it inhabited. Lena exhaled shakily. Did you destroy it? No, Elias said. You can't destroy something that exists outside of time. Then what did you do? I forced it to choose another moment. Lena stared at him, bewildered, exhausted, and terrified. What moment? He didn't answer, because the printer behind them whirred to life. Another photograph slid out, slow, heavy, as though reluctant to reveal itself. Elias picked it up before she could see. Elias? Her voice trembled. He studied the image, and his expression fractured. Tell me, she whispered. I deserve to know. Elias slowly turned the photo toward her. The image showed him, lying on the studio floor, eyes open, shadows crawling up his chest like roots. Lena's breath ripped from her lungs. No, Elias, no. He stepped forward, cupping her face in both hands, gentle, grounding, unbearably human. This is a consequence, he told her, not a fate. Then we stop it, she whispered fiercely. A faint smile touched his lips. For the first time, I'm not alone in this fight. The lights flickered once more, but this time they warmed instead of dimming, as if acknowledging a shift neither of them yet understood. Lena took his hand. The studio was silent, the future was unwritten, and the shadow had chosen a new target. But Elias and Lena were no longer two people running from possibilities. They were two people ready to confront them. Together. If this story pulled you into its darkened studio, if you felt the breath of the unseen behind your shoulder, or if Elias and Lena's unraveling fate left you craving the next moment, then step deeper into the quiet corridors of velvet shadows. Here, every photograph hides a truth, every silence holds a heartbeat, and every new story leaves a door half open, just enough for you to slip through. Subscribe, stay close, and let the shadows show you what they've been waiting to reveal. Welcome to Velvet Shadows, where every secret has a pulse,